All right. I told you if you have any questions about body language, just send them to me and I'd answer them. And you send them to me and I'm going to answer them. So if you have a question about body language, just send it to me at bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com and I'll get right on it. All right. Here's the first one. Hi, Scott. Do you know how common it is for psychopaths to be alcoholics or addicted to substances? Yeah, it's real common. That's actually one of the things you look for in their past as you're making the decision about whether they're a psychopath or not. So it's really important to not only pay attention to what they're doing now, try to find out what their background was like. If they go to jail when they were a kid, were they hurting little animals? That's a biggie. Being mean to animals and being mean to other little kids or even kids younger than them as their children. And as they grow older, they'll get in trouble. That's why there's always that thing for psychopath and sociopath, the differences that I'm always preaching about, how they're completely different. They're really, really similar, but there are so many differences in there. For example, the sociopath, or what people call a sociopath, is going to be really violent. They're going to be really violent most of their lives, from their little kid to, they usually go to prison early, in their early 20s, if not before that. And I mean prison, not jail, for doing something horrible, for hurting somebody really bad, burning a place down, robbing a couple of places and getting caught, that kind of stuff. Whereas a psychopath, they're quite often, they know they don't want to go to prison. So they're not coming from an emotional place. So you don't see these explosions of emotion like you will in the so-called sociopath, because the sociopath was raised that way. In other words, all of their neurological equipment is in place. Everything's working just fine most of the time. However, they were raised where their feelings weren't nurtured as a little child, So it's like, as they grew up, they saw one of their parents being mean to little animals or other children, or just mean all the time, or beat them up all the time because they were an alcoholic or for whatever reason. So that child never gets the chance to have those feelings nurtured and become empathetic. So that's a lot of the times that's what that's about. Now, the psychopath, of course, as I've talked about on here 1,000 times, they're born that way. Their brain isn't functioning properly the way it should neurologically to make them, or for them to be able to be normal and to have empathetic feelings for people. So that's basically in a nutshell what the difference is. But as they grow up, the psychopath will have 90% of the time, I'd say, that's what I'd bet on that. They'll have a background of drug and alcohol use and being mean to little animals, people younger than them, and maybe their age, right in there. So yeah, it's very common, really common. Good question. Hello, Scott. What does it mean when a narcissist will not look me in the eyes, even when I try to engage him in conversation? Well, you can't, there's no way you can say, well, he's a narcissist, so this. That may just be the way that person is, and maybe it's just be trying to get you worked up. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if y'all are friends or somebody you've just met, somebody's always mean to you, somebody's trying to put you down all the time, or if they're always nice to you. I don't know. So it's hard to answer that one without any more backstory than that. But there's nothing specific that says narcissist will do this, so look out for it. As far as not looking at you when you talk to them, it may be a situation where they're trying to seem, like you're lower than they are, like they're the dominant person. They're not going to look at you, or maybe they're just rude. There are no studies, as far as I'm aware, that talk about how the narcissist looks at you or doesn't look at you when they're talking to you. So sorry about that one. Oh, now we got a video question. Hang on.
Hi, Scott. CLN Adams 32 here. Thank you for taking my question. I was wondering if you could tell me what actor or actress you feel most realistically portrayed a psychopath in a movie. I have my thoughts about it, and I'm thinking Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs when he played Hannibal Lecter. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
All right, that's a great question. Now, and thanks for sending that video in. If you have a video, send it in. If you got a question, put it on video, just use your phone, something, whatever you want to use, and email it to me. If you can't get an email, let me know, and I'll send you a Dropbox to put it in. I'll be able to get to it that way. Now, that's a great question. I agree with you. I think Hannibal Lecter is the perfect movie psychopath. And in that situation, it shows all the things that everybody knows the psychopath does, or they're they're under the impression Psychopath does, and he's really scary. He's a great actor and all that. So yeah, that's great. That's a great choice. Nice choice. Mine's Billy Bob Thornton in Fargo, the one that was on TV. Maybe it was streamed. I don't remember. But man, if you really want to see what a psychopath acts like, watch Billy Bob Thornton in Fargo. It's the series. I think there are 8 or 9 episodes of it. Man, perfect. As far as I'm concerned, really, he does that really, really well. But yeah, that's a good one you picked there, though. That's a famous one. Probably the most famous one, I think. So thank you for that video question. All right, let's go to the next one. Are predators somehow attracted to people with giving hearts? So I know what you mean. Are they more predatory toward nice people because they're easier to get to? Yeah, and that's why. Because the nice person is what's considered a nice person is more likely to listen to you, engage with you, not think, oh, look out, because they don't want you to wouldn't want the bad person, the predator, to think they don't like him or are being rude. And they're more apt, I think, to believe what they say and listen to them. And especially in that engagement, that first engagement there, that's really important. So, yeah, I think when you look, if you're a predator looking for a victim, that's one of the ways you do it, especially when it comes to psychopathy. So you want to, as you talk to people, you see who's the nicest, they're going to pop right out, and you're going to engage with them, or they are going to engage with you if you're one of the nicest, if you're a good person, and the type of good person they're looking for, who's just like totally open and will listen to everything and is accepting of a lot of things. So, and I want you, as you're listening to this, go, I can't be accepting of things. I can't be nice about things. Don't do that. Don't not be nice. But just, heads up, be aware of who you're talking to if you haven't met them before. They seem really, really nice right out of the gate. So they probably are. The odds are that's what they are. They're probably really, really nice. You probably like them. They probably like you. But heads up, you never know. That's one of the ways they did a whole video on that about how the psychopath gets in and gets you to like them. So, yeah, good question. Thanks. Hi, Scott. Since the amygdala must be damaged or missing in order to be a psychopath, can a brain scan be performed, say if a young child is exhibiting psychopathic behaviors, as a way to diagnose this early on, certainly in a more expedient manner? Well, when it comes to psychopathy and fMRI, the brain scans, you can tell a lot, and you tell a lot fairly quickly because they look really, really different. The normal brain scan from the one that's a psychopathic brain scan, and you could do that. I'm not sure what the word is on that. If they're if that's one of the go-tos when it comes to child psychopathy, because I'm not all studied up in that. However, on that other channel, Psychopathy Talk, I did a whole video on that about children being psychopaths. Can they, and what happens when they are? So, and that's that AI thing. So I took them off this channel and made it its own channel because people don't like that on here. And at first I thought, I don't care if you like it or not. But people were like, man, you got to get rid of it. So I don't want to hear that anymore. So I put it on its own channel, Psychopathy Talk. Go look that up. There's a little thing about children, about child psychopaths on there. You might like that. It's a study on those. It's one of the studies. It's really good. Thank you for that. Hi there. Outside of a professional setting, have you had a friend or relative ask you to observe an interaction they're having and look for any deception? Yeah, sometime a while back. I had a friend of mine who was going to go out with this guy. She said, I'm going to go out with this guy. I've never met him before. And we're going to meet up. Would you mind sitting around and watching and see what you think? So I watched him and saw what I thought. And this was 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And I told her, I thought he was fine. Nothing wrong with him. I kind of liked him. And now they're getting married. So they're not married yet, but they're going to be. And but that's one of the things I do that I get hired to do is I'll go into a company, or the company will have me come in as they meet with someone and say it may be another company, it may be a hire they're thinking about having that's got a really important part to play in that company. And I'll sit there and watch. And I'll have those signals to them of what type of questions to ask. If we're sitting there, I may go like that with my thumb. And it may mean something. If I do that with my finger, that may mean something else. So I do that a lot professionally, but only really the one time for somebody that I knew, and they're getting married. So I think it's working pretty good so far. It seems to be. We'll find out in a few years. I guess if that one goes wrong, I shouldn't say that, I might jinx it. Take that back. Hi there, Scott. I just like the sound of my own voice on recordings and videos. It sounds very different in my own head, if that makes sense. Is this common? Is there anything I can do to feel more neutral toward the sound of my voice? Yeah, you're not going to like this. You got to listen to yourself talk. It takes a while. Like if I'm on Newsmax or News Nation, I'm on those all the time, or on Dr. Phil's show or doing something for him, and I have to watch me and then listen to myself. Man, it takes a long time to get used to that. But once you do, it goes right past you, because really what you're hearing is what everybody else is hearing. So what you think you're hearing that sounds like you is just the skull and the inner part of your head is vibrating, and it sounds differently coming out because it's passing, your sinuses are vibrating, everything's going on in there, and you're hearing it go out and then come back, in a nutshell. You are hearing it come out, but then you're hearing it in the room and all that, or whatever's going on around you. So it takes a while if you're not used to hearing yourself talk or seeing yourself on video, man. But yeah, you can do it. You can do it. Just listen to yourself. Just listen to whatever it is you've done. You'll get used to it. And all it is what everybody else hears. So nobody's going to think it's goofy. You're the only one that thinks it's goofy. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. Nobody else knows the difference. If you say it, everybody goes, yeah, I know, I sound different too. Everybody knows it. So don't worry about it. Just go ahead and do it. It's tough. I hate hearing me, but do it. You'll be all right. It's fine. Hi, Scott. How can you feel more at ease in front of the camera? For instance, you can tell actors and actors to feel more comfortable than the average person. How do they do that? Do they train? Yeah, it's one of those things, again, like that last question, you just got to get used to it. I tend to see things that I'm doing, speaking from my perspective, since I do TV and stuff a lot, as you're doing a job and you have to get that done. So I'm really not that worried about, the intricacies of how I look and everything. I am, because I got to wear a shirt and a tie, or not a tie, but a shirt and a jacket and all that, and try to look like I know what I'm talking about and be professional. So when it comes to people doing the news, anchors and stuff, when I deal with them, most of the ones that I've dealt with are the people that are out in the field because they're new and they're trying to get a gig at CNN or Fox or somewhere else. And so when I help them, I just show them all those little things you do that you see every day when you see somebody out talking about a storm, or they're talking about a car wreck or somebody missing, or whatever the word is, that town hall or downtown or whatever it is. So all those things you see them doing, yeah, that's rehearsed. Well, sometimes they're not, and they get used to it, and they've been watching for years and don't need it. Some people don't need it at all. They're just a natural. But for those people who aren't, just doing it, that's what helps the most, because you finally get relaxed and realize it's not that big a deal. Especially these days, if you're doing, let's say you're an actor, nobody cares. Once you get in there, you care right then, because it may be new for you. And you're just getting used to doing that. But I learned that from my brother. I'm not an actor. I never do that kind of stuff. But he said it's just, after a while, it's nothing. Just absolutely nothing. He deals with those people all the time if he's not doing it. So it's something you just get used to. Good luck. Hello, Scott. Why do schizophrenics always seem to hear messages from God with bad tendencies, but never messages to go and help society by picking up trash, build homeless shelters, etc.? Well, some of them do, because mostly the things you hear about schizophrenics or who do something horrible or bad, that's why, because that's what they're hearing. Some do good things, but I don't think it's not coming from a person. It's being created in their head because of a chemical imbalance or whatever the imbalance is there. I'm not a schizophrenic specialist at all. I know one when I see one, and after a few minutes when I'm talking to one. But for something like that, there are ones that hear just good things, but a lot of them hear the bad stuff. One time I was talking to this woman, I won't say what the company is, and as I'm talking to her, I said, and she was, she was under suspicion. I'm trying to word this right because I got to be really careful. She was under suspicion of taking some money from this company, an embezzler. Okay. And she kept talking about God, kept talking about him. So I figured she's a fairly religious person, you know. And don't get me wrong, I'm a religious person. Like I always say, Jesus loves you, but I'm his favorite. Big Guns loves me, right? Digs me. We get along great. So it's kind of weird going in there and doing what I did. But I said, as she's talking, she said something about God and the Lord and stuff. And I said, well, sometimes I talk to the Lord and we talked about you a little bit. And I think you've got something else to tell me. There's something else here that's missing that you're not telling me. And she goes, and I swear to this, she goes like this. Oh, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. I took the money. I did it. Yeah, I did it. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I knew it was wrong. And started telling me everything she did. So, and I felt bad about that because, lying and saying God told you something when he didn't, stuff, that's tough, man. That's a weird one. Hi, Scott. How do you read eye movement? I don't. There are no definitive studies about eye movement yet. Like I always tell when this comes up that Greg Hartley and I were starting studies on that with fMRI at the University of Louisville. Then COVID hit, so we haven't fired those back up yet. But until I get the studies and the scientific proof that it does mean something when you're looking around, I don't say specifically what that means. I can tell you what might be happening when someone's looking around, and I do talk about that, but I always say, in my experience, and there are no studies to show, even though there are other people that say this happens every time, I still, and they look down on me for not being into it yet, but I can't do it. I can't say for sure because there are no studies. There's no scientific backing of that says for sure these eye movements mean something. For example, anybody I know that depends on eye movement doesn't say when they look down to the left, it means they're lying, or up and to the right. It's not like that. It's where the emotions hit and you look at a certain place. But from my experience, what I would assume, and what I do assume and use in my little kit of things to pull out and use, is when someone's talking to me and they start looking around, they're thinking, you do that too. I can't say because somebody looks over here, looks over there, it means they're lying or telling the truth. Nobody can. If anybody says they can, they've got the wrong information. They've got bad information because that's not true. That's not true. Listen to me. It's not true. Doesn't happen. You can't do it that way. Doesn't work that way. I don't care what you've heard. Because you look down to the left does not mean you're lying or telling the truth. Okay? Remember that. Remember that. Quote me on it. I don't care. Have them call me. Have them email me. And I'd love to know the proof of that because there isn't any. There is no proof that means something specific other than people's experiences with that. Now, if I went out every day and I picked up a little yellow caterpillar and it stung me, every time I picked it up, but it's not known for stinging people, I would be out telling people, if you pick that up, it stings you. When I pick it up, it stings me. So that part I get. I understand that. But what I'm saying is there are no studies that show that means anything, eye movement, so I can't get into it. I can't depend on that. Other than when they look around, I know they're thinking, because that's what you do, that's what I do. There are no specific places you go to for truth and deception and all that. I think that's where you're going with it. So I don't read eye movement other than looking at it from that perspective in my own experience and saying, okay, I rely on this because every time I see this, or a lot of times I see this happen with the eyes, it means that's going on. That's it. So I just can't say for sure about it because there are no scientific studies. It's not backed up. So I'm sorry, I wish I could give more information than that, but except don't believe it when somebody looks down to the left or up to the right, it means they're telling the truth or lying or creating something or whatever. Don't listen to that. Hi, Scott. I've seen people on television or out in the wild lick their lips when reporting something disturbingly repellent, as if they secretly relish something unspeakably gruesome. Sometimes it might even be a sickening crime against a child. I'd appreciate your thoughts on this. That could be an adapter for them. Now, as we know, adapters are the things we use and do to get rid of that built-up stress and tension. All right, when the situations come up, it could be this. You could push on your face, or you could bite your lip, or you might do that with your lips. You might lick your lips. Anything to help get rid of that stress. When you touch your lips, when you touch your mouth, it sends a signal to the brain to relax. So people will do all kinds of things to help themselves relax. They'll self-soothe, as Joe Navarro says. They'll cross their arms, and that doesn't mean that the person is not into what you're saying or they're turned off. They may feel more comfortable that way. They may feel safer that way. And when they're doing that, they may be doing this with their hand. They may be squeeze a little bit. And when you squeeze a muscle and you let go, it relaxes a little bit and helps you relax a little bit. Any repetitive motion, anything over and over and over, like the shaking of a leg or doing this or tapping on something, those are the things, those are known as adapters as well. They're self-soothing cues that you see because the person's trying to get rid of that built-up stress and tension, not in the front part of their brain where they go, I need to get rid of this built-up stress and tension. I'll do this. But they are doing that because it makes them feel better. Like it'd make you feel better if somebody would hug you. Sometimes people hug themselves and when they're standing there talking. Sometimes it's cold, and that's why they do that. Sometimes it means absolutely nothing. They don't know what to do with their hands, so they just cross their arms. So when it comes across their arms, get rid of what most people say about that. That means you're turned off and not into what that person's saying. But lip licking, that's usually a sign of stress or a cue for stress. We usually connect those. When your stress goes up, a lot of people lick their lips. So that person may be totally against what they're saying or telling you about. It may be vile to them, may be vulgar, and they don't want to have that up in here either. Because when you hear those things, you collect them, and they stay up there. They may not want that up there either. So it could be a way they're getting rid of that, their built-up stress and tension. It's really common. It's a good call, though. Good catch. Good question. Hi, Scott. What kind of people who are not psychopaths can kill one another? People are just odd. You can't tell exactly what every person's going to do. And sometimes people get all emotional and they freak out and a kid will kick a ball into the yard or something and the person that lives there will beat him to death with a sprinkler. You never know. Sometimes people just freak out and they do stuff that they pay for the rest of their lives because they feel bad about it when they do that. Or road rage, that kind of thing. They just get all upset and all worked up and they start driving like idiots and accidentally kill somebody. So it's a lot of times people who are not psychopaths, sometimes people are just mean. Sometimes you get the sociopath a lot of times who go to prison early because they usually kill somebody most of the time. That's why they're in. But some people are just mean. Some people don't understand that they think they're being cool and stuff, running around fighting people and being tough and all that. And one time you'll hit somebody, knock them out, and they'll fall over and hit their head on the curb or on the concrete, and that's it. About 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours later, that person's not with us anymore. And another person is on the hook for murder. So a lot of it's just emotion. When that explodes or you get angry over years and years and years and you want revenge, those kind of things. So it's, as you know, it's common that people do that. And, if you could solve that problem, man, you'd rule the world. But it's, and there's no way to say why they do every time. There's no one definitive reason, So it's a lot involved there if they're not psychopaths. So I hope that helps. Hi, Scott. For psychopathy, what part does the ego play? It plays everything. It's all about the ego. The ego is everything when it comes to psychopathy. That's all it is. It's a giant ego running around, trying to please itself, it's a body running around trying to please itself. So it's all about the ego. And with a narcissist as well, especially when you get a malignant narcissist or, with a clinical narcissist, it's all about the ego. That's all you're dealing with there. And if you can learn to control that ego when you brush up against it and when to say something or what to say after you brush up against it, it takes years to figure out how to do it, but you can control one of those. Not to every move you want, but you can steer it in the direction you need it to go with that person. their thoughts and their feelings. You can sort of influence them to do specific things, but you got to know how to do it. You got to be careful with it, because if you're not, it can go sideways on you, and they'll never listen to you again because they'll figure out what you're doing. But there's that's a great question, but it's all about the ego with a psychopath. Hi, Scott. Often the experts say that that psychopaths don't have feelings, and they are always faking it. To me, it looks like they indeed have feelings. Sometimes they crack and start to cry as they realize they've been caught. It looks like these feelings come out but are quickly masked again. Could it be that they are hiding more than they let on because they have been hurt in the past? If they have no feelings, why would they ever crack? No. If it's a psychopath, they don't have feelings. They may be using what they think are the tools to make you feel something, to make you have empathy for them. If it looks like they're going to cry and they're a psychopath, if they crack and you see those things or hear those things, it may be part of the, theater for you, to make you feel sorry for them or feel bad for them. It's like, wait a minute, maybe this isn't what happened. So that's what I would think. And because psychopaths don't have empathy, they can't have it. They don't have the equipment installed in their brain that lets them do that. So if you look at it that way, it makes it a lot clearer. They can't have empathy for you. They can't feel sorry for you. Empathy and sympathy, two different things. They look alike and they're similar. Sympathy is when you feel sorry for a little puppy because he's limping around. You go, oh, bless his little heart. I wish that hadn't happened to him. Now, empathy is the part where a little puppy gets his foot stepped on and you go, oh, I bet that hurt. Oh, gosh, I know that hurt. You put yourself in the position of the puppy and it getting stepped on. You feel that. You don't actually feel the pain, but you empathetically feel it. And you're like, oh, that must have hurt. Ooh. So that's the two differences there. And if the person is a psychopath, they're not going to have any of those feelings at all. Not even a little bit. So it's not that they're hiding the feelings. There's just feelings aren't there. And they may be trying, like I said before, to get you to feel sorry for them. So pay attention. That's a great question, though. Hi, Scott. Often it seems like psychopaths go out and eat after they've committed a gruesome crime. Could this be because they are physically tired, like a heavy workout, and not just because of lack of empathy? No, it's because they don't care. It doesn't bother them. I mean, they may have had to dig a hole or whatever it is. They'd be maybe worn out and want to, let's go eat, but it doesn't bother them. I mean, this is going to sound horrible. I'll word this so it's not as horrible, but I've heard of situations where someone has done that to someone and then sat down right next to and ate a sandwich out of the refrigerator. Sat there and opened the refrigerator up, ate a sandwich. Yeah. So it's not because they're tired. Maybe because they're tired, I don't know. But it's because it doesn't mean anything to them. Any more than it would be for you if you were to pick up a cup and then put it in the garbage. Pick up a dirty cup, put it in the trash, and then go eat lunch. You may not even think about that dirty cup again for the rest of the day. Now, the psychopath's probably going to think about that person because they want to make sure they don't get in trouble. So did I make sure I covered my tracks on this, that, what happened? Did I do everything right? Yeah, I don't think anybody didn't get me. So I think I'm good. That may be the most amount of thought put into that situation is, I hope I did everything right. I think I did. That could be it. So it's not like empathy. It's lack of empathy. It's not because they're worn out and tired and all that. It's just because it's wearing on them. They just don't care. Hi, Scott. I was thinking when someone meets someone they revere for the first time, whether it be a celebrity crush or a crush or someone they admire a lot, is that the same thing as fight or flight that causes them to act funny? Okay. I got one for you. So when I was a kid, when I was in high school, junior high and high school, there's a guy named Bootsy Collins. And I would write him a letter every day. I thought he was the coolest thing in the world, man, because he played with Parliament Funkadelic and he played with James Brown before that, a bass player. He's the guy with the big star glasses and stuff. And I wrote him a letter every day. I mean, he and a guy named Roger Troutman, who was in this band called Zap. Just Google Zap, Z-A-P-P, and you'll see I'm talking about Dance Floor. Look up that tune. You'll like it, I think. But so I'd write these two guys. I'd write Bootsy more than Roger, but I'd write Bootsy every day. And Roger, maybe, once every week, but at least once a week. And when I got older, when I got in the music business, I got to meet Bootsy for the first, still a friend of mine, still know him now. And the first time I met him, I thought, I didn't know what to think, about lost my mind. Now, having been in the music business, I met a lot of famous people and worked with a whole lot of famous people. And my brother's in the TV and movie business, so I meet a lot of those people. Never gives me kind of anything at all. Never get a buzz from that. Didn't, it doesn't mean anything to me at all. Not even a little bit. No kidding. But meeting Bootsy Collins, man, that was different, because this is a guy I thought he was larger than life, And so I finally got to meet him. And I've got pictures of it, and it looks like I think that too. Oh, it's bad. There's a video of he and I, after I hadn't seen him for years. We hadn't seen each other for years, and then we're in studio, and he comes in and we meet up. I'll see if I can find it. If I can find it, I'll play it for you.
All right, man, and these guys are just wearing me out, man. It's the day before my birthday, and this guy walks in. First of all,
So you called me from France.
right.
Remember? So we talked in France, and then I couldn't. This was how many years ago?
It was in the 90s. I know it was. I think it was. Yeah, it was
Late
in the
90s.
Yeah.
And he tried to laugh, and he just started laughing like that. So anyway, so after we get the album done, so we're going back and forth with ADATs.
ADATs, you remember that?
Oh yeah. So they're like video cassettes, but you multi-tracked on these, right? It was digital.
Yeah.
So I'd send him stuff, and I figured, well, because I send a lot of stuff, I said, well, it'd probably be a week or so before I get it back.
Well, before you get to that part, back up to the Memphis part where you came up. Yeah, you got to tell us.
Weird after that. That was the only one there. I was like, I said, here's something you play. Rouse. And I was like, hey, what's up, man? Wow. Crazy. I didn't use my phone like that, So,
But from there we went to then that's when we really got hooked up, because this was my take on it. When we talked down there in Memphis.
yeah, where you're talking about how there's a check in the mail. So that was what so. I'd send these ADATs off with it had 4 or 5 songs at a time on. Then I figured, well, we got about a week, and we'd send them by FedEx, go back and forth.
Right.
First time I sent them off, it got there that day, and they got back the day after, not the next day, the day after that, and I thought, my God, and they were full.
Right.
I thought, so what is he? I couldn't believe it. I thought, well, he might have sang on, put a bass or something on. Well, he was doing it was just all full. He'd erased all of our tracks and let the 2-track. What we had is just filled everything else up. Just, and I was like, oh my God, it's like that on every song. I almost started crying. You got to be kidding me. So, and
That was so much fun. That was the first studio I had in the back, like in the back of the house. It was way back in the back, because it used to be like a Billy Goat, chicken coop, that kind of thing. And I redid it to like a studio. It worked. And that's where I did it, the drums.
Yeah, they sounded that they worked us.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And then when you sent it back mix, I was like,
in front of ADATs. He's like, yeah, that's me. I sure everybody knew. I go, oh, they were like, look at this, man. Check it out. Fuck, oh, yeah. He's got some too. They come a little bit.
So I think you had like about 10 of them?
Yeah, I had 12 of them.
That's how you didn't do. I really, if there's anything I ever get to do this. I'll never forget that. Never forget that. That was, that really made me stop believing.
But that was, there's still a little bit of that buzz in there. Every time I see him, it's like that. I still get a buzz from, I don't know why. But I know why you're asking about the freeze, fight, or flight thing, because you really get, but I think it's just the excitement of seeing that person. Yeah, but I don't think it's not freeze, fight, or flight, although your limbic system is involved, because there's a lot of emotion there, and there are a lot of things you're paying attention to. Your eyes get big, and your pupils are going to widen a little bit. When you see those people, you're going to smile most likely. Every picture I've ever had with him every video, I'm just smiling like a possum. It's weird. So I don't know. But yeah, it's not freeze, fight, or flight. Although like I said 9 times before this, the limbic system is involved with that. It's a great question. All right, if you have any questions about body language, just email them to me, bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com, and I'll get right on it.